Quantum physics and the multiverse. No, I don't mean the one they talk about in those superhero movies like the Avengers with time travel. Well, kinda. Those movies may not explain the theory well, but the concept is similar. Let's begin. Thanks for tuning into the Joey D podcast, where I discuss with you different ideas and concepts, all with the goal of self-growth so we can become better people. So today, I want to get a little science fiction on you, and we're going to scratch the surface on quantum physics and talk about multiverse theory. Why? There's something there that we can actually take away from that could actually help us with our own growth and development and decision-making processes. So before we get into it, I'm not a scientist by no means. So this is the most basic oversimplification / bro science way of explaining the multiverse theory. Basically, it's a theory that there are different universes, either alternate or parallel to ours or others, and some theories say that there's about 12 different universes that run parallel to each other. Other theories, more related to time travel, suggest that every decision someone makes can create an alternate universe where the opposite decision was made. So there could be a universe in which, for example, the US election had different results, or wars were won by different countries. There's actually a scene in the last Avengers movies where they talk about time travel and alternate universes, which gives a bit of a visual illustration to this theory. But again, that movie is completely fiction. Myself or that movie are not a good source to understand something as complex as theories within quantum physics. But let's take this idea about alternate universes and think about ourselves. What if every decision we make creates a different version of ourselves in another universe? What if your decision to do something or not do something had the potential of creating a different version of you for better or worse? For example, what if there is a version of you that picked a job at a different company than the one you're currently working at? Or there is a version of you that went away to university instead of living at home? That would significantly impact your life trajectory. From the work culture you're exposed to, where you decide to live might be impacted by where your office is. If you choose a different university than the one you went to, that would have an impact on who you become friends with, which can impact your personality and the social activities you engage in. But what if there is a version of you that is your optimal self? What if there is a version of you that realize your greatest potential? Take a hard look in the mirror and be honest with yourself. Are you the best you that you could or could have become? If the answer is yes, then that means you haven't made any bad decisions and you are the best you that you could realistically imagine. And if that is you, congratulations, you can turn this off. But if you're anything like me, you know there's most likely tons of room for growth and lots of potential yet to be realized. I know that I've made some horrible and often dumb decisions in my 20s that has definitely had some sort of negative impact on me, but I've also made a lot of great decisions too. But the point of this is, if we look at the multiverse theory and ask ourselves, if the multiverse theory is real, are we the optimal versions of ourselves? Or could there be a better version of ourselves that exists somewhere else? If you think you could be a better version of you based on decisions you made, then my question that I ask myself too is, why isn't that version me here right now? And I'm not saying to fantasize and say to yourself, if only I invested in Netflix or Tesla or even Bitcoin before those stocks blew up. Or to say, if I had this thing or this opportunity when I was younger, I'd be much better off. I don't mean that. I mean strictly on the decisions you made for yourself with the knowledge you had at the time. Are you the version of you with your full potential realized? If you, like me, answered no, I think we owe it to ourselves to reflect on why that is. For example, I would love to be 12% body fat, have a solid six-pack, and have the body of a superhero. I may never look like Thor, but I know I definitely have the potential to get lean, fit, and muscular. I even know nutritionally what I would have to do, and I know a lot about exercise that I definitely have the know-how and the means to do it. And even if I didn't, I have Google and could learn. Now, there were times when my eating was right, I was working out 5 times a week, and definitely on my way to realizing my fitness potential. However, at some point, I stopped. I made a decision, maybe not actively, but somewhere in my brain, I made a decision to slowly stop eating as healthy and not go to the gym as often. If we apply the multiverse theory to this situation, that means that there could be a version of me that didn't stop and is very healthy, active, and fit. So I want to attach something else to the multiverse theory. And it's this other theory that a version of ourselves could exist with our maximum potential realized. And most decisions we make can either take away from that version of ourselves or bring us closer to it. As we are on this journey of self-discovery and growth to be the best versions of ourselves, I believe our mutual goal, part of the reason why you listen to this podcast, is because we both want to be the best versions of ourselves that we can be. So we need to be conscious of the choices that we are making. Now, I don't mean obsess over every single decision you make and strive for absolute perfection and make sure that every decision you make is the best one you could possibly make. Absolutely not. That can't be a healthy way to live your life. Part of living life is failing and making mistakes and learning from them. But the key there is to learn from your mistakes. I have messed up countless times. There's no shame or embarrassment in that. And I don't think most of my failures are detrimental to my success or realized potential. The shame would be in not learning from my mistakes and continuously repeating them. So don't listen to this podcast and then refuse to eat junk food ever again or be fearful of ever making mistakes, because life is also about balance. But thinking about how our decisions affect us and our future is important in realizing our potential. So don't obsess over every little thing. I mean, have good habits, live a healthy lifestyle, but also think about the decisions we make, whether it's what we do with our free time, what our goals are, what we put in our bodies, and if we are making excuses for things. When we make certain decisions, we should ask ourselves, is this taking away from my potential or leading me towards it? So let's say, for example, you always want to play an instrument. Let's use the guitar, for example. So let's say you always wanted to learn to play the guitar, but you never did. If you apply the multiverse theory to this, then there is likely a version of you that knows how to play guitar. And if you are listening to this, then you likely have the means to learn. Whether you're 16 listening or 50, it's never too late or too early to learn. You might say you don't have the means to play or know how, but you can buy a guitar on Amazon for as low as $55. I literally checked before recording this. And we all have Google, which can teach you almost anything that you'd want to know. So if you went on Google to learn music theory and watch guitar tutorials and lessons online, over time, you'd achieve that goal of knowing how to play guitar and be that much closer to being, the quote unquote optimal version of you. So if you take an honest look at yourself and think about all the potential you have and aren't reaching, ask yourself why you aren't. Because if the multiverse theory is correct, then there could be a version of you using the means that you do have to become the person that you want to become and is doing the things that you want to do. Again, this isn't something to obsess over, but just ask yourself throughout the day or week if the decisions you are making are bringing you closer to your potential or damaging your potential and taking you further away. Is the decision preventing you from being the optimal version of yourself or robbing you of becoming that? Just think about how your decisions are truly impacting you. Thanks so much for tuning into the Joey D podcast. If you are watching on YouTube, thanks so much for watching. Be sure to hit subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure to follow my podcast channel to stay updated on the newest episodes. And if you want to help support my podcast, tell a friend about it or repost this on Instagram or Facebook, and be sure to follow me on Instagram at TheRealJoeyD. Thanks again for listening, and I hope this episode has helped you in some way or helped you grow and get closer to realizing your full potential.